Hello and welcome to Why the Beatles Matter. This is Sean Gaylord, and I'm in a playground right now. I am in a magical mystery tour. Tomorrow never knows. Just fun house right now with my guest and bandmate and kindred spirit. Tracey Taylor. Tracey is an artist and an educator, but she is much more than those two those two words. And we're going to learn that and be on this journey together with Tracey. Tracey, welcome. I'm so grateful for you, my friend.
Ah, you have no idea, Sean. Thank you so much for letting me play in the play box you built. I am so grateful to be here today. I I come from a community that gives honor, and this is an opportunity for me to give flowers it to the living. So I'm just so grateful to get to play in the playground today.
Well, I am feeling much magic and love and peace and understanding that you're bringing from the land of enchantment right now. And I guess where I want to begin in our conversation, which before we hit record, we went down a rabbit hole that was just amazing. And I know that, and we're still in that rabbit hole together. But I just want to know, what was it? What song or moment or memory or work brought you to the Beatles? What was your entry point into that world?
Mm. I have a 45 that is in a leather bound box. And I have a small portable record player, but I also have a very large TV console, whole 1960s, and it's gold, our harvest gold. It was antique in my mother's house. I have a record player that I had that I bought in college. I probably have four record players and that little box of 45s. And I have this collection of 33s that came into my life by way of my parents and their collection. And they had a Beatles 45. And there was a lot of Elvis that surrounded it. And my mother was an Elvis fan. And they didn't actually like the Beatles. So the fact that there was the single of Hard Day's Night and all and I Want to Hold Your Hand, it's early Beatles. It's the
Mm.
1950s Beatles because my parents were 50s kids. My parents
Right.
graduated high school in 1957. So my our record collection is like the best of the 50s. Let's get up and do the stroll,
Yeah.
right? So and my parents became teachers in 1960. They graduated college, and my mom graduated college in 1961. So starting their career in 1963 in the middle of the counterculture, my parents would have been fully dressed with pearls at cocktail parties. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
60s that we see on television
Mhm.
and we see in our movies now, that was their time. We see their time, and every time my mom would go and there would be like an Elvis impersonator on stage, she would just come alive. She would be like, oh, so there was lots of Elvis. So I got lots of Elvis as a kid when I would play it on the record player, when I would just be sitting in the living room on the floor playing, records just to experience music as a small kid and having permission to do so. She would
Nice.
kind of hate it that I didn't want to play Elvis a lot. I really liked that Beatles record. So early Beatles is early me. And then
Mhm.
music Beatles don't come back as an important thing until I'm an art teacher next door to a music teacher who is teaching their class using Star Wars and the Beatles. Yes, I've lived
Good.
next door to that music teacher and absolutely wanted to send him to my dentist with a note that says, I'm sorry. I literally will become WWE Monday Night Raw. Like, I I learned the biggest lesson about your pregame and how you show up
Mhm.
prepared and how you show up for people. His pregame routine used to drive me crazy. I loved that he was a saxophone player, but his pregame warm up every morning of scales, when you think about it, it's psychological torture. And as a music kid, we never want to practice because we never want to play scales.
Right.
And so, how many of us don't ever get to be the Beatles because we can't get past the fact that I have to do psychological torture to my brain in order to become a musician with scales? So, the Beatles then re-enters my life after after Teach Like a Pirate by Dave Burgess.
Right on.
You followed Burgess. Burgess was your opening act. And
Yes.
so Pepper Effect came after Burgess. And Pepper Effect for me came right around 2019,
Mhm.
where that was my entrance into Teach Better.
Mm.
So when the Beatles re-entered my life with intentionality, that was you, baby.
Oh,
That was you. You brought that to us. And we have to give props to your fifth grade teacher for that. My
right.
fifth grade teacher told stories, and stories matter. What happened back then matters. What's happening right now matters.
Mhm.
The stories we create in our future are going to matter for the same reasons. Your stories mattered to me. I recognized that because of my fifth grade teacher. So your fifth grade teacher gave you the Beatles,
Yes, she
and
did.
my fifth grade teacher gave me what I needed to show up to be in this moment with you, having read your book and having applied what's in your book to my actual life. Yeah. Not only did you make me a Beatles fan, I could probably help you co-teach your class.
Wow.
As we discovered in the hour that we like just
Yes.
hung out today
Yes.
before actual production time. Yeah.
We actually have to figure that out in some way, shape, or form because that would be, as a former high school English teacher, one of the best courses that I ever co-taught was a humanities course, and it was myself representing English. I co-taught it with an art teacher and a music teacher. And boy, I was in so much heaven during that time. I was learning with the kids. And here I
Yes.
was, able to integrate, literature into different mediums and man, it was just such a, I guess the best phrase is flight of fancy. It really was. But it would be something to co-teach a course with you. We'll have to figure out a way either to fly out to North Carolina for one of the classes that I'll be doing at High Point.
Oh,
Got to figure
my
this out.
friend. I love how you think that that needs to happen in that little box. Welcome to the Beatles' first era. Inside the
Beautiful.
box,
Go there.
thinking will always give you the constraints you need. Yeah. When you move into, the magical mystery tour era of Pepper Effect, when you get to Pepper Effect your life, and I'm now working as a magnet coach at a STEM school. So, and I've been an art teacher that has used science, technology, engineering, and math for several years in their practice because of technology in film and audio visual media and media literacy. So when we are applying these things in our lives as teachers, I was a teacher who read your book trying to become a better teacher. I threw in with my kids. I started collaborating with my kids because you taught me how to do that.
Oh
Like,
wow.
that's how
Mhm.
we do that. But here's the thing, collaboration doesn't have to be an actual physical person.
That's right.
Have you ever actually met a Beatle? Like, are you friends with a Beatle?
No, the closest I came was Paul McCartney drove. And I write about that in the Pepper Effect. He drove by
Yes.
me, and that's the
Yes.
closest I came. Now I've met people who know the Beatles, but I can't claim John, Paul, George, or Ringo as friends at all. Wouldn't that be nice?
No, I am a fan. And I'm a fan who buys tickets. I got to see Ringo Starr's All Star Band live in New Mexico.
Oh,
It was the greatest
nice.
fan experience ever. And I've been to mosh pits. Like, I've been to like the big lay on the lawn. I have been to share live
Wow.
with gay men and the LGBT community
Right
on
on.
the lawn with bottles of wine. I have had some of the greatest concert experiences ever. I followed Pat Green and Corey Morrow all around Texas for the first 5 years of my teaching career.
Oh my gosh.
I love music experiences and I love experiencing the world. And because of my neurodivergence, experience is very important to me. So I have paid money as a Beatles fan to have the experience, but I don't know them, but
Hmm.
we co labor with them and they're not even in the room.
No.
We co labor with people in our imagination. So I probably could co-teach your class, but I don't need to be there with you, baby. I can sit on that couch in the chair wherever you are. I will take a seat at any table with a good man and be the villain. If you need a seat, if you need me to be the good man at the table, that's fine too, but pour me a Jameson and light me a cigar.
Oh my gosh, that's such a rewindable moment right there, Tracy. That is amazing. And one of the things where I really want you to go is, and we'll go backwards with this. One of my favorite cherished Beatles albums is the Let It Be album. For
Mm,
lots of reasons, that Get Back, Let It Be era. I know you and I are both fans of the Get Back documentary from Peter Jackson. Let It Be and I came out on the very same day in the same year, May 8th, 1970. So and Let It Be is an album that is not mentioned in the same sentence as Rubber Soul, Revolver,
no.
Sergeant Pepper, Abbey Road. Let It Be is kind of seen as an epitaph, but I really believe it's their best album in my opinion.
Mm,
I have this really personal connection to the album, and you talked about the the trajectory before we hit record about the Rooftop Beatles, that very famous January 1969 concert that actually turned out to be their last public performance in front of everyone. And you as an artist, I got to tell you, friends who are listening, um, Tracy is not only a visual artist, but she is a word artist. And the way, and even though we are filming this, and it's good to kind of see reaction, our physical reactions and our smiling and our body movements. But if you can listen to the audio version of this and the way that Tracy paints with words, very similar what George Martin, referred to his work as word paintings. And but you paint such a beautiful picture with words, and you do that with the Rooftop Beatles going to the Recovery Beatles. So just do that whole trajectory, because that is just such it's a master class in disassociation, neurodivergence, identity, all the things. Just go, friend.
how the stories we tell matter. So I went on a journey. You inspired me along with other people in our PLN, Professional Learning Network, to kind of go on this learning journey, and explore myself as a learner and a leader, and that it was okay if there were things that I didn't know how to do. The professional development, the personal professional development that was required of me as an art teacher, because nobody can teach you how to be an artist. You have to experience it.
Yeah.
When you start to look at learning from others and how to alchemize that into yourself, you start looking at the stories. What story do I want to craft? What story do I want to create? What does this look
Hmm.
like? How do I start with the end in mind? I teacher hacked my whole personal professional development. And your book, written out of a passion and love and wonderful, just you, authenticity,
Thank you.
like became a resource for that. So I show up as a learner, and I didn't know everything that you knew about the Beatles. I can't quote dates. I can't quote years. I can't, I mean, it's like getting to have a conversation with Casey Kasem. Like, you know all these cool facts, and it's like it's so cool in the experience. But as a learner, like I'm showing up brand new. So it's like, okay, I know a little bit and I know I like it. I've had that little taste of, oh, I like this. And I know it because it's in pop culture, which is exactly where my middle school kids were coming into my class as a teacher. And I was like, ugh, these are the
Mm.
problems we solve as teachers. So you really took me on this journey of identity for middle schoolers, getting middle schoolers to collaborate in a lab-based classroom like art where we're building things because it's STEAM. So there's science, technology,
Love it.
engineering, art, math, sculpture. I have to be able to teach that to children and not have them hate it, you know? So I have to be able to sell tickets to the show. And so when we look at, okay, I've got to do this thing, I've got to create this thing, I I don't necessarily connect very well with middle schoolers, or do I? What's it like to be a middle schooler? You struggle with identity. Oh, I'm in the Breakfast Club too. Where do I start finding these connections? So you helped step me into this story. So I arrive at Teach Better 2019 having the wrong days booked. There's a mistake that has been made. We are not arriving on the correct day and we are leaving before the conference is over. And this awful mistake has been made. Whatever shall we do? Please, you're letting me ditch school? I know how to ditch school. We headed to Cleveland and ended up in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame
Nice.
as teachers in a book study, reading The Pepper Effect, standing in front of the Beatles display,
Oh my God.
looking at their timeline and the album covers and going through it and literally looking at going, okay, what do we see? There's early stuff. What do we see? We've all been early career educators. What do we see lining up? We did
Mm.
our own development lesson, field trip to the
Mm.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And you have helped create the person who is showing up today because that became my process as an artist in what I created and the process that I use in my craft and practice, how I show up for collaboration, how I prepare for that, how I take care of who I am as an individual,
Yep.
how I show up in my collective, how I contribute, what I contribute to the outcomes, and how I get to create and what I need to create as an individual to bring that magic. Like, we're at polyphonic voices because if I can get to that rooftop moment,
Mm.
that rooftop moment is I have let go of everything that was in that conformity of do it this way, do it like everybody else is doing it. This is how you do it. This is how you play rock and roll. This is how you make it hip hop, right?
Mm.
This is how these are the basic elements of it. Then what do you do with that? How do you start putting it together? Well, it got to be too much pressure to stay the same. You want to be different. You have to be different, but you can't risk your career. This is what you want to do. How do you make it safe? You make it fun, because if it's playful and it's fun and everybody's in on it, like it makes sense. And it has to be authentic. You can't mimic it. Garth Brooks tried it and he failed at it and he lost his entire career at it.
Yep.
So there's a failure there. But when we fail, it's how we recover. The the Beatles went through this evolution of disassociating what from what was devouring them to what was delightful and the things that they wanted to create so that they could become the artists that they wanted to be. They became performance artists. They weren't just a band. Like, they were performance artists, and they reached that point of being able to say, this is who I am, this is me and my A game. That rooftop is Kobe Bryant. That rooftop proves that Michael Jordan wasn't a fluke. Me standing here talking to you proves that your book wasn't a fluke. What are you going to create next? Like,
Mm,
I can handle a breakdown. I can survive writer's block. I
mm,
can survive a lack of motivation. I can survive not caring for myself. I can survive the lack of care of others to get back to all I need is love. Like I can show up in love in this moment despite anything else and give the performance of a lifetime. Whether you love it or not, you will remember it. And the experience was probably worth a ticket. Most of us really wish we had been standing on that street that day.
yeah.
So, yeah, that when you look at the timeline, I deal with early Beatles, I deal with creative Beatles, like creative process Beatles.
Mhm.
And then I also deal with like recovery Beatles, individual Beatles, and then like you have to kind of understand in the creative process, that's where we get connections to. If you understand the Beatles, you can understand hip hop. So once you understand the Beatles, you get you get opened up to a whole other genre with a whole other message, with a whole other movement. And those are artists carrying a message and carrying a movement with intentionality. Once you get through the Beatles, then once you get to the rooftop, you're living with intentionality.
Wow. That's so beautifully said, Tracy. It really, truly is. And I'm grateful for your just incredibly warm words about my book. And I'm basically speechless and humbled and honored because the Pepper Effect was my love letter to a band that changed my life and changed my world. And the book is really, yes, there are things in there about education and leadership and culture and those kinds of things, but the book is in many ways a conversation that I'm inviting the reader to hey, I want to share this experience with you. I want to share this impact with you, which also echoes in many ways. I think why the Beatles are so great because there's just this kind of fine line between internal and external within the band. They're exploring, their kind of own emotional crises or struggles or joys, and songwriting is very much an internal creative process. Again, this is what makes art, right? It's this fine line between this external or this external world that you're trying to respond to, and then you're also responding to yourself, and you're engaging others in that conversation. So you might be listening to a song like In My Life from Rubber Soul and going, wow, man, even though this is John writing about his own introspection, I can identify with that. I've been through that. All the lonely people in Eleanor Rigby. Man,
Yeah.
I know what it's like to be lonely. I've been there. I've been picking up my own version of rice in the chapel.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
you know,
Eleanor Rigby is the number two song on my Beatles Power playlist for my like, oh gosh, we are just rolling deep in it today,
you,
aren't we?
we are rolling in the
Your
deep.
love, your love letter to the Beatles taught me how to love my own life and the lives of others and how to show up and love others. So we are rolling deep in this. I have again, how you show up, I have to take care of myself. If I don't take care of, I can't show up as Gizmo and be cute and lovely. If I don't feed myself, if I don't take care of that little thing, gremlins are going to show up. They are gremlins. I am a whole lot of Christmas 1987 right here. Little Miss Christmas
Love
1987.
it.
If I'm not cared for properly, and I had the best toys and play was amazing. So if I can't show up and play right, like my world is terrible. So the Beatles, I put together, my power playlist of how I get prepared for all of the morning, right? Like
Mm.
when I'm on my way to this appointment, what do I listen to? Eleanor Rigby is number 2 on my Beatles power playlist. Most of the music on that playlist comes from Revolver. I'm in my
Wow.
Revolver era hardcore right now. Yeah.
You're wearing a Revolver T-shirt right now as we speak, correct?
I am. I'm in the Revolver. I'm hanging out in Revolver. I woke up this morning fully prepared to answer the question for you that if I was stuck on a desert island, which Beatles album would it be? Baby, it's Revolver.
I can totally see that because, that album was purposefully recorded by the band so that none of the songs could be replicated on stage.
Yes.
That album was rebellion. That album was art. That album was playbox, sandbox. Let's see what happens if we string together backwards guitar solos. Let's see what happens if we record this poem with strings. Let's see what happens if we make this fanciful yellow submarine and so that album in many ways I went through a hard Revolver phase.
Yeah, I can imagine too. Like being a principal, you probably see teachers going through hardcore Revolver phases. And for me, it happened pretty early on because I was a magnet teacher. And the first 5 years of my career were spent in a magnet school learning
Love
how
it.
to teacher. And then the last 5 years of my classroom practice was in a magnet school. And now I'm a coach in a magnet pathway trying to teach
Love it.
teachers how to, teach like magnet teachers. So magnet teachers, it's a Beatles process. There's a lot of we can't do the same thing that we've always done.
Yes.
So we can't just teach language art, reading, writing, math, science, social studies. We just can't, I can as a new teacher, I need to be able to create early Beatles. I need to create the early Beatles. I want to hold your hand. I want everybody to have fun. I want everybody to learn something, and don't miss the school bus home. Like everybody gets home fed, everybody's taken care of, everybody's safe. Everybody learns how to play in the play box. So I was a first grade teacher that obviously shows up in everything I do because I have created content or taught everything from pre-K mommy and me to higher education. That Muppet shows up everywhere. So don't get it twisted. I'm this way all the time. Like I am a play kid. So when we see the early Beatles as a early career educator, you're going to get to that point where, hey, I've got some ideas of my own. Wouldn't it be cool? And I learned wouldn't it be cool from basically the journey of your book. I was watching Lil Jon design a basement on an interior design show on HDTV.
Wow.
And he went, wouldn't it be cool? And I went, that's the Beatles. And I
That is.
saw it in the documentary and I went, that's the Beatles. So you're showing up in my life right at that time. You showed up with the Pepper effect at Revolver for me. So
Mm.
I Revolver is special to me because I know what it feels like to create with intentionality now.
Mm.
And I am now at my rooftop having gone through, this transition of what, encountering my spirituality, encountering my creativity, encountering my individual process, in encountering my individual, productive struggle, but also when productive struggle becomes not productive,
Mhm.
encountering my own struggle, my own mistakes, my own shortcomings, and then having to look myself in the mirror and go, okay, now what? I'm not going back to that. That's too easy. I could quit or I could push through and find somebody to get me unstuck. I could find a new idea. I could find a way to move forward, or I could sit still and wait for the technology to catch up. Sometimes I'm waiting for tools because remember, our back end Beatles are waiting on tools.
That's
So
right.
I just might not have the tool I have right now. Can I wait for the tool to come? And then, so now I'm at Rooftop Beatles singing your song back to you, but
Yes.
just in the way that I play it. And so I feel like when we look at the whole entirety, and I'm getting lost because that's what happens when we get into these, the energy hits and I'm lost. So get me, we're trying to get to that moment on the rooftop. If I can get to that moment on a rooftop as a teacher and stand there and go, yeah, it was hard, yeah, I, that first stuff maybe wasn't my best work, I'm I'm okay now. Look what I created now. I'm okay with what I created now. And then you look at what happens when I'm gone.
Hmm.
And so what is the legacy of the legend? What legacy do we leave behind? Is it the selfless sacrifice of something that will benefit everyone for years to come? We sit around talking about people we don't know. So clearly that legacy is important. And I have paid tickets to the show and I'm watching the way that Paul McCartney enjoys being a rock star. And I want to be a Dave Grohl kind of rock star. I really do. Dave Grohl told the story of how Paul McCartney gave his daughter her very first piano lesson. If I had known as a kid playing piano, right? Psychological torture going through the scales,
Hmm.
like the music teacher next door. If I had known then that I could get to the Beatles, that I could get to Fall Out Boy lighting a piano on fire, I totally would have like, I totally would have made the journey. Looking back, we always think, oh yeah, I totally would have done it. But when you're facing things like death, loss, new jobs, divorce, decaying things that you once loved, Clint Eastwood saves films and archives films, and as part of the archival film, when you see your art being destroyed or copied, and
Yeah.
being mistreated, like you you recognize that, in those moments of struggle, I might be creating a masterpiece. I've got to keep going. This might end up being a masterpiece. This ill behavior might be a masterpiece. I have to keep going because I've seen it before. And, now and then we stop and pay a little homage and give them some flowers where they deserved.
Absolutely. So
Sorry,
on
I
the,
get lost. Sorry, I get
no,
lost.
no apology needed, and you are not lost. There is a definite clear beacon that you are writing here. In terms of Revolver being that desert island album of yours, what are those songs that on that album that kind of stick out to you? You mentioned Eleanor Rigby being on your power
I
list.
am pulling up the playlist
Here we go.
right now. Um, First things first, Good Day Sunshine.
Yeah,
Yeah, Good Day Sunshine.
good call.
That I because I use have to have routines to keep me, my neurodivergent functioning. I am a functioning adult. I am a functioning teacher. Like I am certified to care for small children safely. I'm not just, this is playtime for me. So I get to take that safety and responsibility off, which
Sure
is a
thing.
great balance for me. So thank you for allowing me a safe space to do that.
Always.
Um, but usually for my playlist, music helps me keep track of time. I have trouble with time and space. um and just because, again, feelings come in, that the communication on my neurodivergency comes in differently.
Hmm.
So music and frequencies and resonance, like that stuff really helps me keep track of space and time. So if I have a playlist that's like, this is the song I listen to in the shower,
Hmm.
that's the song I listen to in the shower.
Nice.
Because that means we get where we're going on time and I won't be 10 minutes late apologizing. So on my We Gotta Get There on Time playlist, The Beatles from Revolver. First thing is the intro to the Power playlist. First off, paying homage is Come Together,
Nice.
played by Aerosmith.
Oh, wow.
The Aerosmith version of Come Together is actually the first song on that playlist, followed by Good Day Sunshine. So when I'm go time, Come Together is go time.
Hmm.
It's the trigger. That's the spark. Come Together is the spark. So then Good Day Sunshine, Eleanor Rigby, Here, There, and Everywhere, Yellow Submarine. Put a pin in that one. That one's a fun one to play with.
Sure is.
And Your Bird Can Sing,
Great song.
and Got to Get You Into My Life. And then uh on this playlist section where I'm like getting ready to go into places like this, my prep list, then Now and Then is next, followed by Now and Then. That's what just that little grouping right there. If I have just that little grouping, I'm good.
Wow.
That's my group.
And it concludes with, and I'll bring it
That's
over.
my everyday Beatles. That's my everyday Beatles.
Everyday Beatles. For those that may not be familiar, Now and Then is what is being billed as the last Beatles song. A song
Ever.
that was my number one Spotify song. I played this song close to 500 times last year.
Yes, me too. I taught it in my class to the kids. I brought it in. I was like, oh my gosh, this happened yesterday.
Yes.
Like it was my current event. I taught a whole class on it. They thought I was crazy. I was like, no, this is like legit. And then I broke it down because I was in a STEM school.
Hmm.
I'm an art teacher doing science, technology, engineering, and math, teaching a whole
Yeah,
lesson on it.
this
I
is
could have
steam.
5-star evaluation. Music teachers use that one as your 5-star evaluation. Teach the Beatles for your evaluation. It'll teach. It'll teach all day. Uh it is my favorite Beatles song. Like if anybody asks me, "Oh, you like the Beatles? What's your favorite Beatles song?" Now and Then,
Easily.
because you don't get the Beatles without Now and Then. There are no Beatles.
That's right.
They're like that's my favorite. Yeah, it's the cherry on the top.
Why is that your favorite song out of all of
Oh
them? Out of
gosh,
all of them.
it's it's the pin from Yellow Submarine.
Okay, go there.
Yellow Submarine and Now and Then absolutely go hand in hand together for me. And it also Now and Then connects to Yesterday for me, and it has that Wednesday's Child melodic thing that they do with that polyphonic voices.
Hmm.
And it's because it's constructed with the electronics of the technology, it really puts the texture in it, and it really the texture of the song in the feeling then amplifies what Yellow Submarine does for me. Yellow Submarine is on my everyday playlist because it is my barometer of people. If I want to sit in the submarine and sing along, we are good. That is Gizmo. We are good as Gizmo. If I that song comes on my playlist and I want to literally murder the entire submarine.
Oh God, Tracy, no, no, Tracy, don't go there. No.
We literally have a problem. Thank you, Eminem, for allowing me the wherewithal to say that. Eminem is featured along the likes of Elvis and our rock and roll heroes in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. His personification of Slim Shady is what connects to the Beatles.
Sergeant
Like he
Pepper.
personified Slim Shady. So when I have my Slim Shady moments, like if I'm showing up as Slim Shady, like if I'm showing up and I want to be a villain, if I'm the villain, if I'm the critic, if I'm the gray people on the street who goes, I'm trying to get home, just trying to get home. Where's this music coming from? On the rooftop. If I want to murder everybody in the Yellow Submarine, I know I'm out of whack. So I gotta at least have that song, at least a few minutes of it every day to be like, oh, I'm good. We're good. If it's not good, where are you going? How are we gonna show up in love? How are you gonna be Beatles on the rooftop? you know? And so
Mhm.
Revolver to me is their step out into their authenticity,
Yeah.
the result of their trauma and learning and mistakes and just who they are and how they're showing up and why they're showing up on that rooftop
Mhm.
and the celebration of what it is. Like we live that every day. As a teacher, I have to encounter Simon Sinek's "What's Your Why" so much. I wanted to send him to my dentist with a note that said, "I'm sorry." Now I want to go to dinner with him and have a conversation with him like you
Same.
and show up going, "Hey, I didn't really like you at first, but I was open to the experience and now I'm a learner and you taught me something and look at what I know.
Yeah.
And what are we going to do next? Because now that we're on this bus, it's a magical mystery tour. Where are we going next? What are we going to learn next? What are you going to learn next now that you've encountered me?
Oh, wow.
How is that going to impact you? I'm a learner who bought tickets to your show. And now there's like epic stories.
Well, there are, and there are epic stories to come, and I would say, Tracy, that the thing that you have really given me good pause for in many and often there's this, and you've mentioned it in so many ways, but intentionality.
Mm,
And it's just a good echo for me as an artist, right? You know that there's an intentionality. Sometimes there isn't, right? You know, sometimes blue is blue. Sometimes the chair is the
yeah.
chair. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, right?
Yeah.
And just a very good reminder for me about intentionality and purpose when we create. And then also the thing that I think that I really took away too is this notion of the recovery Beatles, that you've got to, you know, when you have a breakup or a split or whatever, there's this, you have to allow yourself a period of recovery. You have to give yourself
Mm,
permission to recover. So when the Beatles broke up, you know, there's this kind of, you know, Paul, his first solo album, the McCartney album was very much him trying to kind of rebuild himself. He had gone through this period of
mhm.
depression, this period of kind of numbing himself with alcohol, and him trying to kind of relearn how to do what he wanted to do individually. John, going through his primal scream period. He and Yoko going through primal scream
Yeah.
therapy, and him, you know, trying to figure out, what do you do when the dream is over? What do you do when you wake up? Ringo, exploring different you know, modes of expression. He went to Nashville and made a
Yeah.
country album, right? And
Yeah.
in fact he's getting ready to come out with another country album. And then he also did an album of American pop standards from the,
Mhm.
you know, Cole Porter, Hoagie Carmichael. And then George, you know, he's got this whole like you know, backlog of songs, right?
Mhm.
He's been stockpiling songs because either they were rejected by the Beatles or he didn't feel the confidence to share whatever song with the band. And he's got this all-star lineup of Clapton, um,
Yeah.
you know, right?
I'm a Clapton fan because of that. Like in that
Exactly.
same resonance. Yeah. George Harrison led me to Clapton. And
Oh,
but it
that's a
was
good
reverse
path.
engineered because I was a Clapton fan first. So reverse engineering my Clapton love yeah, brought me to yeah. Who you hang with is important. You taught us that about collaboration.
That's right.
Hello.
That's right. You know, who you surround yourself with, and that belief that you have in your collaborators, and the
Yeah.
fact that George had to kind of figure himself out, and he surrounded himself with Delaney and Bonnie, you know, Eric Clapton, and the guys have eventually become Derek and the Dominoes, Phil Spector,
Yes.
all Gary Wright, all these folks that you know help him define himself and give him the courage the creative courage and the confidence to make a triple album,
Yeah.
a triple solo album. All things must
Yes.
pass, which is just such this monument and is such a spiritual and healing album. So you've got this period of recovery where the Beatles are, and in many ways, educator wise, as I think about this, because having gone through a health situation about 10 months ago, and really going through a form of physical recovery, emotional recovery from that health situation, and going through therapy, and kind of rediscovering myself in all of this after this kind of traumatic event that I experienced 10 months ago, 11 months ago. I can really identify. That's why when you mentioned recovery Beatles, I went, "Whoa, there's something there." But all of us as educators, in many ways, and you mentioned either before we hit record on this or in the course of our conversation on the pandemic, and in many
Yeah.
ways, we're going through that. We are recovering from this collective grief. We're recovering from this collective trauma that we're
We've
experiencing.
all been shipwrecked like a pirate. I mean,
Yes,
yeah, we've all been shipwrecked like a pirate as we were
yes,
trying to live like a pirate, right? Like
yeah.
teach like a pirate, learn like a pirate, explore
Yeah,
like a pirate.
recover like a
Yeah,
pirate. And
you've
and
got it. Yeah. What happens when you get, think about it when you're in rough, stormy seas? Like, not every day your boat won't go if the wind doesn't blow.
yeah,
Like you have to have some kind of storm. The wind blows in New Mexico every single day somewhere. You know what I mean? I love the way the wind feels in my hair. But for what most people don't realize is I don't have hair. My hair is actually fake. I wear fake hair all the time. I actually don't have hair. And but I remember having hair. And so I always like that feeling. I always appreciate the way that wind feels like on my scalp or in my hair. But like
mm,
think about it. That's the feeling of flying, right? And
yeah.
so if you're on a pirate ship, you're Rose and Jack on the Titanic, right? When
That's
is
right.
that moment? When's the epic moment? It feels like I'm flying, right? So when we as teachers endeavored to step out this way, yeah, it sounds real good. Teach like a pirate, learn like a pirate, explore like a pirate, dress up in costumes. Do you know what it takes for someone who is neurodivergent, who needs absolute man? I'm an IEP kid. I'm an IEP and a 504 kid who
Mm.
became a teacher. So I'm a SPED kid who became a teacher who has to teach regular ed and gifted and traumatized. Yeah. So I might know a thing about a thing.
You
So
might.
everybody goes through this traumatic event. We all have to recover. We all need accommodations, modifications. We all
Yes.
need a cookie that we're working for. What
Yes.
cookie do you want to work for? Okay, well, we can't just sit around eating Cheetos all day, or else then we're going to have to run like a pirate. And I only run when really bad things are here. So, like, and even then, I'm a wildlife photographer. If it's a bear, if it's a moose, I'm probably going to turn around and take a picture from a safe distance with a very long lens. I actively go looking for things that are scary and interesting and wild so I can take their picture. So at some point on this adventure, we're going to get shipwrecked. We're going to have scary things. How do we deal with that? And as an educator, I went back to my source, which was Fred Rogers and the Children's Network and
Right.
Walt Disney and Jim Henson. And those were the creators who were important to me. And
Same
as a
here.
kid, your teacher gives you the Beatles. I got Walt Disney. I got Jim Henson, I got Fred Rogers, and where I took it from there crashed into you, and then your you crashed into my me, and it's polyphonic voices. We sing the same song, we collaborate well. I mean, yeah, like I don't even have to be in the space to collaborate with you now. So that's true impact because now and then you'll have a recording to go back to or a book or something that you leave behind. And that's where we get, are you going to take your shot? I was listening one of the next after my Beatles playlist, right? What comes after the Beatles?
Mm.
Because it's not how you get down. Taylor Swift made a whole album about being down bad. It made me so depressed. I almost couldn't enjoy Paris, France. I almost missed it because I was stuck in the down bads. So I had to switch over. I switched over good though, and I got back up. And at some point, when you have to go back out or you have to say, okay, what's next? This is boring. This has My creativity at this level has now become so manufactured for me. I need to reinvent myself. As a teacher, I taught the same lesson 18 times in a row, standardized over the course of 3 days. Can I do it? Absolutely. I scripted it. I performed it. I was a theater kid. I can hit my mark. I deserve an Oscar for some of those days because I shouldn't have been at school because I was grieving the loss of someone or something. I was physically ill because I wasn't, I was a gremlin,
Mhm.
or I was going through stuff. I wasn't taking care of stuff, but being able to show up and hit my performance marks as a teacher saved my bacon on a lot of days. But I'd much rather show up healthy and authentic for the benefit of all and harm to none because I'm so much more excited to be in the space to show up as myself. And that's the rooftop. The rooftop I want everybody to get to their rooftop moment where it's like, if this is the last thing that I'm known for, if this
Yes.
is the story they tell about
Yes.
me, this is what they will tell, and this is how it goes out. If this is the last conversation we have, if this is the last moment we have, we don't know what's coming. There might be solo albums, the band might break up. People might have different dreams. You might not agree with somebody. Somebody might not want to change.
Yeah.
This is how it is. Somebody might not be willing to even go there. They might just be needing to sit and wait on their technology tools. We've waited a long time for now and then. It's sometimes people got to wait on their tech tools. Are you going to wait with them or are you going to go off and create a solo album? Side projects, side hustles. What else can you learn to do? I know how to weld. I know how to plant things. And because I know about the process now of sustainability, how do you sustain a career? How do you sustain anything? How do you sustain a person? Now, process becomes sustainability. That is legendary. Like, that's legacy. And then your intentionality is how you use your power because we see what's going on in our music systems. The Beatles used it for love. What they created it out of love, and it's pure and it's timeless and it will keep us sustained as musicians and artists. We can keep going back and revisiting it in every era. Every era is every era for us in some form or fashion, or a place of infrastructure to take us to a new place that maybe connects us to a new genre like hip hop. I would love to sit down and have a conversation with Eminem, 50 Cent, Dr. Dre, Jimmy Iovine. Are you kidding? What they know? That's Chisme. That's the Las Resolanas space. Let me just sit in the room and listen to what's everybody else going on. I will be nosy Rosie all day long. Let me just sit and listen. And that ultimately is why the Beatles matter for me. You helped me learn how to communicate. I learned how to communicate by going on this very big project, research project. And I learned how to show up. Yeah,
Mm.
as an artist. Because you sent me on a research project. You're a really great teacher. You inspire people to do homework in their free time.
I'm so grateful for you, Tracy. I really am, and you are definitely a living embodiment of why the Beatles matter, and why the masterpiece that you give so selflessly and willingly inspires kids, inspires teachers, and definitely inspires me. So anytime that you want to get in the play box, you call me, pal. I will be
Thank
there. I will be there
you.
with you. What's the best way for folks to connect with you, to connect with your art, to connect with your voice, to follow the Gremlin and Gizmo and all the things. And I got to say it's refreshing being with another Gen Xer. I have to say that. So
Oh gosh, isn't
I dig all the
it?
references. It's just very refreshing. So thank you. So what's the
Yes,
best way to
it's
connect
tough
with
out
you?
there.
It is. It is.
It's tough. These Gen X and Gen Alpha kids are built different, but they're our babies. They need us to show up. So hopefully we're activating everybody else to play in that play box authentically in their real lives. I'm in transition right now. I'm hoping this conversation sparks a little bit of that next direction of what's next. Like I've stepped out with my first solo album. I released a new collection on TraceyTaylorFineArt.com. So we've got merchandise in the store. We've got
Nice.
lots of little sayings and Tracy isms on t-shirts and coffee cups. I've have a collaboration right now on some merch that's Polar Camel, Champion, and Adidas merchandise that has my designs on it. We
Love it.
have printable canvas paper. My art can come home to your home in very small or large formats. Print on demand, however you want it. You get to customize that for your space and place. So, TraceyTaylorFineArt.com, and that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Well,
Everything else leads from there.
I will definitely put that wonderful solo album in our show notes, and please be sure to check out Tracy's artwork and all of the masterpieces that she is creating. Tracy, I am grateful to be with you in this moment at this time as you are going through your Revolver stage, right? Because Revolver is very much a transitional album. Revolver is the pathway to Sergeant Pepper, the Pepper effect, and ultimately the rooftop and that enduring legacy that fuels a band that we love and admire so much. So I just can't say enough how grateful I am for you, my friend.
I'm so grateful for you allowing me the time and space in your play box today. We've talked a lot about Revolver. That pepper effect might be in my back pocket pretty soon. We might get to see my Sergeant Pepper show up here pretty soon. And I can't wait for you to see it now that you know that you played a part in getting this to here. Like when that presentation shows up, I know who my audience is. Like now, stepping out, I know who's going to be in that audience, and I can create for my audience. So you really did give me a safe space as a creator to step out, and I can't wait for you to see it and get your feedback on the pepper effect and what I can do because of you.
Well, thank you, Tracy. I can't wait to see that. So we can consider this like our Strawberry Fields Penny Lane
Yes.
phase, right? And
Yes.
we're just that little 45 sampler that is the
Mhm.
pathway to your masterpiece. So when that masterpiece comes, when your Pepper effect comes, when your Tracy effect comes, I want to be there front row, day one. Uh, Championing you and cheering you on. So consider me front row seats to you in the audience to your masterpiece, whatever it is. I
I
can't
would
wait
be
for it.
willing, I would be willing to I would be willing to go on record and say I will give you first look.
Okay, all right, everybody heard it, and I will. Everybody heard it. That's tuning in. So we got several witnesses. So I can't wait to see that. I got you, my friend, and I can't wait. So friends, thank you so much for tuning in. Special thanks and gratitude to Tracy Taylor for spending just a very upbeat and ebullient Saturday morning with me. This episode will land very quickly in kind of in the at the speed of John Lennon's Instant Karma. And for those of you that are traveling during the holidays and flying or whatever, I hope that our hour together was a nice respite and trapdoor for some peace and love and understanding under the umbrella that is the band The Beatles. Tracy Taylor, thank you so much. much. This is Sean Gaylord. This is why the Beatles matter. Like Tracy, you all have a story and a legacy to add to the tapestry that is our world. And we're very grateful to the enduring legacy of the Beatles adding to that. And you definitely add to that as well. Stay tuned and stay fab. Thanks again.